Okay, welcome. Good morning, evening, afternoon, night, whenever it may be that you're watching this. This is my Lambda log. That's a good name for it. But this is week 9, day 2, Armistice Day, end of World War One, the 11th day of the 11th month, 2025, Tuesday. And it's a rehearsal day, so working on Richard III. And so I was scheduled to work twice. In the morning, we worked in 1.3, and and we were able to get through it this time. We had changed some casting, and so it took it was a little bit different in the sense that uh with different casting we just started back from the beginning and worked through it, and it was slow, it was methodical, but it was good, and I'd learned some good relationship things. Shout out Sandridge, because Buckingham, my character, was adopted, was put under the care of Edward IV, the dying king, right? Richard's brother, and making Elizabeth my pseudo mother, and yet I totally double cross her. So it's really interesting to me to see how like I work those relationships. And 1-3 becomes all about me finding my allegiance, right? So the whole scene is it's in court. King Edward has drawn everyone together because he wants to make them apologize because he's dying, he's sick, and he wants to make sure everyone is redeemed before he goes. And um, so he does just that. He calls all the people, and they immediately start fighting. Elizabeth is worried that like what happens to her when Edward dies. And then her brother and son are like, don't worry about it because Edward is like your son, little Edward, he'll be king, but he's 12 years old. And Richard, the Duke of Gloucester, becomes what's he called? Lord Protector, which is like the person in charge until the boy king comes of age and is able to rule the country, the kingdom. And so she's super worried, and then Richard comes in. He's like, "Why? Who's talking badly about me? Who's calling me in and saying that I am rude and hated? It's like you guys hate me." And it's like, Richard, calm down. Nobody tattletaled on you. This is just Edward trying to figure out what to do with us. And so he goes on these long monologues, and then Margaret shows up, and Margaret is the old queen. So before Edward and Elizabeth, Margaret was married to Henry, I believe. Henry the Sixth. Henry the Sixth. And she was fighting wars and doing all sorts of things. And she actually killed Richard's little brother, Retland, and made Richard's father, I think his name is Richard as well, Richard, the Duke of York, at the time. She killed his like infant child, and then as he was crying about it, she was like, "You think you're king? You want to be king? Well, here's a paper crown. Look, you're a king. Congratulations." And then he's crying, and then she gives him a rag soaked in the blood of his infant child. And he's like, "Use this to wipe it up." And so Margaret's kind of vicious. And so she comes in and she starts cursing everyone. And she's like, "Oh, well, you think the Duke of York cursed me, and that's why my whole family died. My son was killed, and my husband was killed, and my kingdom was taken from me." And they're like, "Yeah, that sounds about right." She's like, "Well, then I got a few curses for you, Elizabeth. Your children will not live to old age, and you will outlive them and have to see what you've grown to lose." And then other people will die, and everyone else kind of around there was gonna die. And then Richard's like, "Shut up. No one cares." And then she's like, "Oh." Oh yeah, you thought I would leave you out of this curse? It's like, well, you're gonna mistake your friends for enemies and your enemies for friends, and then you will die a worthless death, basically. And then she comes to Buckingham because he's like, yo, let's calm down, have done, have done. And then she comes up to Buckingham. She's like, oh, but you aren't guilty of anything. You haven't offended me. And she's like, my curses won't hurt you. And he's like, they're not gonna hurt anybody because curses aren't real. They don't leave the lips of those that breathe them in the air. And she's like, what? Why? Why are you scorning me who speaks so softly to you? And then she's like, beware of Richard, right? Beware that if you follow him, you will be cut short and you will rue the day and think back on Margaret and say that she was a prophetess. And then Richard's like, what did she say to you? And he's like, nothing that I respect, my gracious lord. And so I think Buckingham in this whole situation is just like watching the power dynamics. And he's like, who do I need to align myself with to um, to gain power and ability? Because historically, some people think that Buckingham might have had a sort of um, right to the kingdom, like through a line, and so he could have been historically like playing his cards right to see if he could be king. But I think in the within the context of the play, he just wants security. You know, his parents died when he was 4 years old, and then he became um, this king to be's ward, and and then he fought in this war with Richard. And I think there was this allegiance with Richard that they gained mutual respect for each other. And then he comes in and he's scoping things out. He's like, Edward's going to die. It doesn't matter that I was his ward. It doesn't matter whatever allegiance or benefit that gave me before. Nick's gone. I also think I married Elizabeth's daughter, one of Elizabeth's daughters. She's a ton of kids. And so I'm I'm just like scoping it out. I'm like, look, Elizabeth's running all over the place. She doesn't have the power. She doesn't have the ability to do what she needs to do to keep me safe and give me something to lord over and power. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not sticking with Elizabeth anymore. And I'm checking it out. And Dorset and Grey are Elizabeth's kin, brother and son. I think Dorset's her son and Grey's her brother. They're useless. I'm like, not interested. Margaret is powerful and but she's crazy and she's already lost her power, so not her. But then Richard comes in and Richard's like, why? What is going on? And the whole room shifts because of him. And I'm like, this guy has the ability to move a room. And I don't really believe in the curses. And so I'm like, mm-mm, mm, nah. And so then it's in this moment where I'm deciding I'm gonna align myself with Richard. He's the guy. So that was fun. We struggled with time again, just staying on time. We had a very ambitious schedule. And so I worked lines for a bit. I ate some food. I had like a 2 hour break originally scheduled, but that turned into a much longer break. But then I came and I was waiting around, so I wasn't doing a bunch of work. I was talking with the other people waiting in the room, and I didn't know at what point I was gonna go. And to learn lines, I gotta move around. I can't just sit there and learn a line. So I felt like I lost some time there. But um, yeah, I don't know how long we waited outside the door, but we were supposed to have 2 hours and ended up having 45 minutes at the end of class. At the end of our allotted time, which was kind of nice because when we got into it, we were doing Act 3, Scene 7, which the idea is so Richard told Buckingham in the previous scene, to go tell the king's people to sow seeds of deceit that the young Duke of York can't be king because he's not truly royal. He's a bastard, right? Being not of the true royal line. And so I tried to do that and I hit all of his talking points. And then when I was like, yeah, and then I bid them cry, God save Richard, England's royal king. They said nothing. So Buckingham has now created a plan, and he's brought the mayor and a bunch of noblemen, and he's like, all right, what I want you to do is you're going to play the part of like a pious man. Okay. So you're going to get a prayer book and you're going to stand between two churchmen. And what you're going to do is you're just going to pray and we're going to come to you telling you to be king, and you're not going to accept it. You're going to play the maid's part by saying nay and take it. So like be like a woman and say no, but do it anyway, kind of a thing. It's like, oh, do you want my food? Do you want some of this food? Oh no, I won't. And then start eating some fries. That's the kind of idea. Just it's a little misogynist. It's a little way, but that's the idea. And so I bring up the mayor, and he's talking through Catesby because he's off praying, and he's like, "Oh, he can't treat you. He can't." And he keeps saying no. He's like, "No, I'm not good enough to be king. I want to pray and I want to meditate, and I'm not the man you want me to be." And then we're finally like, "Fine, you know what? But know that we'll never accept young Edward, the Duke of York, as our king." And it's like, "So we'll take our leave." We start walking away. And then he's like, wait, come back. I mean, if you guys have to, I guess I'll be king. And then we're like, should we crown? And I say, then I give you this royal decree: God save King Richard, England's royal king. God save King Richard, England's royal king. And they all cheer it. It's like this big moment. We're like, yeah. And then I'm like, will tomorrow be great for you to be crowned? And he's like, tomorrow. Tomorrow sounds great. And then, but actually, he says, "Whatever you will," because it's you, it's what you want. And it's like tomorrow, tomorrow. Um, yeah. And so we were able to get through the whole scene just on its feet once, which was so helpful. To kind of follow our impulses with it, and it wasn't perfect, but it was decent. It worked. And then she worked it with us. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be like this conductor, and I'm going to pull audience members in to play the churchman. It's like, oh, you come here, you stand next to him. You guys are churchmen, okay? Make him look really pious and really religious, okay? Stand by him. And then as I get the whole crowd, it's like, come join us. Listen to Richard. Oh, he's so great. And I'm going to pick a moment that's includes the audience and kind of gets them up there and they can see and experience this whole thing. And that was the gist of it. I didn't really have a bunch of notes written down because I was mostly just working on memorization and stuff. But oh, just a couple things. Avoid lines, right? Just like straight lines, and staying still in the round. You want to work around that. And always a physical shelf with entrances in round. What does that mean? Shift. There should be a physical shift when you have an entrance. Like when Richard enters, we're all like, oh, that affects the whole group. And in the round, you got to be a little bigger so that people can see you, even if they can't see your face. But yeah, that was the gist of it. Super short video today. Um, so I hope it's great. Tomorrow's video will be much longer. It's Wednesday, so it's our six classes, and I'm doing a musical theater thing. I'll tell you about it. Anyway, bye. Where's that? Ah.